For more than 200 years, the Mughal Empire absolutely dominated the Indian subcontinent. We're talking about a dynasty of just mind-blowing wealth, incredible art, and immense power. But it's also a story of a spectacular collapse. So let's dive into this incredible rise and the fatal mistakes that brought it all down. And that's really the heart of it, isn't it? That's the question we're going to tackle. How does a superpower of its time, an empire that gave us the Taj Mahal, just end up a shadow of its former self and get wiped off the map? Well, the answers are all in the decisions of its rulers, from its greatest founder to the man who broke it. So the story of this powerhouse empire really kicks off right here, in the middle of a chaotic battle. See, after his father died, the whole Mughal project was hanging by a thread. But at the Second Battle of Panipat, the teenage Emperor Akbar, with his regent Bahram Khan, pulls off this massive victory. This wasn't just another win. It was the moment that cemented Mughal authority and set the stage for everything that came next. And that one battle, it paved the way for this guy. Now, while his grandfather technically founded the dynasty, Akbar, he is the one everyone calls the great architect of the empire. And for good reason. He wasn't just a conqueror. He was an absolute genius at administration, who knew that real power wasn't just about winning wars. It was about winning over the people you ruled. Okay, so how do you manage such a huge territory? One of his masterstrokes was something called the Mansabdari system. Think of it like a unified ranking system for every government official. Your rank decided your pay and how many soldiers you had to maintain. And here's the really brilliant part, something totally different from, say, feudalism in Europe. Officials got paid in cash or with temporary land grants, not with hereditary estates. This stopped powerful families from carving out their own little kingdoms and made sure everyone's loyalty was to the emperor and the emperor alone. It really was the steel frame of the empire. Right, so the key thing to get about Akbar is that there was no single magic bullet. His success was a masterclass in building a nation. He expanded the empire with military campaigns, of course, but, and this is crucial, he also knew how to make peace. He made marriage alliances with powerful Hindu Rajput kingdoms, turning his enemies into family. He set up a fair tax system, and so importantly, he got rid of the jizya, which was a tax just on non-Muslims. This promoted religious tolerance and won him the loyalty of millions of his subjects. And what was the result of all that work? Well, take a look. By the time he died in 1605, the Mughal Empire was a massive, rich, and incredibly stable superpower. I mean, just look at the sheer scale of the territory he controlled. This is the empire Akbar built, and he basically set the stage for a golden age. So, once you have all that stability, all that money, what happens next? Well, you get a golden age, a total explosion of culture. Akbar's successors could now pour their energy into art and architecture, and they took the empire's prestige to a whole new level. Next up is Akbar's son, Jahangir. He kept up his father's policy of religious tolerance, but his real love was art. Under his rule, Mughal miniature painting just flourished, capturing the world with these incredible lifelike details. But here's the thing. The real political heavyweight of this era, it was his wife, Empress Noor Jahan. She was brilliant, she was ambitious, and she became the true power behind the throne. So powerful, her name was even put on coins right next to the emperor's. And that brings us to Shah Jahan. And with him, Mughal architecture hits its absolute, undeniable peak. He built this, the Taj Mahal, as a tomb for his wife, Mumtaz Mahal, who he adored. It took more than 20 years and a staggering amount of money to finish. But the Taj Mahal isn't just a beautiful building, it's a statement. It's a symbol of the empire's limitless wealth, its power, and its artistic perfection, right at its absolute zenith. But you know what they say, what goes up must come down. And after this incredible peak, the decline was steep. The next emperor, Aurangzeb, would actually make the empire bigger than ever, but his policies created deep, deep fractures that would end up being fatal. This is where it all starts to crack. Now, on paper, Aurangzeb looks incredibly successful. He was a tough, skilled military commander who, just as his quote says, expanded the empire to its largest ever size. He was in charge for almost 50 years and kept it all under tight control. But under that surface of strength, wow, he was systematically dismantling the very things that made the empire strong in the first place. And this right here, this tells you everything you need to know. It's a tale of two totally opposite ways of ruling. It's like where his great-grandfather Akbar built bridges, Aurangzeb just put up walls. He completely reversed that long-held policy of religious tolerance. The big one? He brought back that hated jizya tax on non-Muslims. With that one move, he alienated huge parts of the population, especially powerful groups like the Rajputs and the Marathas, who had been crucial allies. So, what happens when you do that? Well, the fallout was as predictable as it was devastating. That policy of inclusion that had held this diverse empire together for so long was just shattered. The result was exactly this: political instability and constant, expensive rebellions. Aurangzeb spent most of his long reign fighting wars to crush uprisings that his own policies had stirred up, and it was just bleeding the treasury dry. So, you've got this empire that looks massive and powerful from the outside, but on the inside, the foundations are just rotting away. After Aurangzeb died in 1707, the cracks he created finally shattered the whole thing, leading to this long, painful decline. And just look at how fast the whole thing unravels. The second Aurangzeb died, his son started a civil war for the throne, just tearing the leadership apart. Seeing that weakness, powerful governors and far-off provinces just said, you know what, we're independent now. And that weakness, it's like blood in the water. In 1739, the Persian ruler Nader Shah swept in and brutally sacked Delhi, stealing incredible treasures, like the famous Peacock Throne. The empire never recovered. It just stumbled from one disaster to the next until the British finally exiled the last emperor in 1857. So, in the end, it was a perfect storm. The internal rebellions that started because of Aurangzeb's policies weakened the empire from the inside. And that weakness just invited powerful invaders who tore it apart from the outside. The Grand Empire didn't just fall, it fragmented. And this map, wow, this really tells the story, doesn't it? Just think back to that map of Akbar's empire we saw a few minutes ago. That huge, unified territory is gone. In its place, you've got this patchwork of independent states and invading armies. It's a powerful visual of just how far and how fast this mighty empire fell. And that kind of brings us full circle, back to our big question. When we think of the Mughals, what do we remember? The incredible beauty of the Taj Mahal, or the intolerance that tore the empire apart? You see, the story of any great power is written in its triumphs, but also in its failures. And maybe the biggest lesson from the Mughals is that an empire built on inclusion can reach amazing heights, but one that turns to division is pretty much destined to crumble.